Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and we're checking out the Lenovo Yoga 3 today. This is their 11-inch Core M based computer, and they let us borrow this for a couple of days to check out. And I like it a lot. It actually is a pretty nice computer. It is fanless, like many of the other Core M devices we've looked at. Very lightweight. It's about 2.6 pounds, and it's also relatively small. This is an 11-inch device, so it is a little bit easier to carry around. And what they do with it here is they let you flip it all the way around if you want into tablet mode. You wait a second, it'll give you a little notification there that you're in tablet mode, and it will disable the keyboard and trackpad so you can hold it like a tablet. And because it is only about 2.6 pounds, it isn't bad to hold it as a tablet. It does feel a little bit bulky, but not as bulky as some of the other computers I've looked at that can go into this configuration. You also have the ability to put it into tent mode if you want, so you can kind of prop it up like so. You can also put the keyboard upside down and have it sit in this orientation, and of course you can flip back to the regular keyboard mode. The hinge feels very nice, so it's not too stiff, but it's stiff enough that it doesn't feel like the screen is going to flop over on you. It does bounce a little bit when you're using the touch screen. I do like the screen a lot. This is 1920 by 1080, but packed into an 11-inch display, so you've got a lot of pixel density, which means you're not going to see the little dots on the screen. It actually looks it doesn't quite look like a Quad HD display, but pretty close to it. And I really like how the screen looks overall. It's a very nice screen, very nice viewing angles, and a very responsive touch on it also. And you've got a pretty decent keyboard too. I've never been too crazy about these curved keys on the Lenovo devices, but it seems to work on this computer. I don't know if maybe the spacing is a certain way or what, but I'm able to type on it pretty well. I also like the trackpad too. It's very responsive to both the two-finger scrolling and the usual pointing around. It is a click pad, so you can, as you can hear, you can click on it and click on stuff if you so choose. On the side here, we'll take a look at the ports that they have available. There is a USB port that doubles as power, so this is not like the standard USB voltage. It puts over a lot more than that when you have the power cord plugged in. It is keyed, so you can't accidentally plug that power cord into one of the other USB ports, so that's a good thing. So you can, though, when you're not having power plugged in, this will double as a USB 2.0 port, so you have some ability to use this as two different types of ports depending on what you need. There's also a USB 3 port here, HDMI out. Now, it does also have an SD card slot on the side, and I will show you that real quick because I know a lot of you like to know how far these cards stick out. So this one sticks out quite a bit, so you're not going to keep a card in here all the time, but you can, of course, pop one in for your camera if you so choose. On the other side, you have a USB 2.0 port, so only one USB 3 port on the whole device. Headphone, microphone jack here, volume up and down. This is the orientation lock, so if you want to move it into a different mode without having the screen flip over, you can lock the orientation there. They also have this BIOS button on here for getting into the BIOS for recovery. It's a Lenovo unique thing, and then of course the power button there. So what we're going to do now is get this thing fired up, and we'll step through our usual barrage of tests so we can see how it functions in day-to-day use. Now, this computer is configured with 8 gigs of RAM and a 256 gigabyte SSD. It's running the Core M processor, fanless processor, at 800 megahertz, so very similar to many of the others we've looked at. And as you can see here, it does pop things up very quickly on the screen when we go into them, and you can obviously go in and move things around in this template and have them react pretty quickly. It does scroll and render pretty nicely also, so it does perform quite well doing a normal everyday work kind of tasks. What we'll do now is just pop open Chrome and see how we're able to navigate the web. It really feels about the same that as some of these other Core M devices we've looked at, which you can check out on my channel, so you can get a feel for how this one compares. But it does seem to render the pages very nicely and really do well as a web browsing device too. We'll go over to YouTube and check out my YouTube channel and see how videos pop up on here also, and you can see it does a pretty nice job rendering everything. It does have wireless AC, so you're going to get that faster wireless for if your router supports it. And as you can see, the video pops up very quickly. I'll switch it into 1080p mode real quick here, and then we'll go into the larger full screen mode also with it, and you can get a feel for that. But it does pretty good. The wireless is very responsive. The color on the screen is also very nice. I have to say, I'm really liking the color definition and the saturation. It's not overly saturated, and it's got a nice range of color on it too. So they've done a pretty nice job there. I did run the Octane test on Chrome, which I do on all of my devices. You can see the Lenovo Yoga 3 falls right in with the other Core M devices running with the same chips, and that's to be expected because they are all systems on a chip. So really most of the guts of these devices now are on a single board essentially, a single chip. So a lot of the things that you'll test against here will be almost identical across the board. So we're definitely within the margin of error here. It performs exactly the same as the Switch 12 and the UX305 from Asus. The new MacBook is faster, but that's also running with a faster processor, which is why you're able to see speeds in that particular range. So now we're going to check out Minecraft, which is something we never want to miss when testing out a PC. And like the other Core M devices we've looked at, it is able to run Minecraft at a decent clip here. We're getting about anywhere from 30 to 40 frames per second as we're scrolling through this world here, and it's not too bad. This does have the same problem that some of the other Lenovo machines have, which is when I have a key pressed, I can't use the trackpad, and that's been something that we found on another Lenovo machine that we looked at recently. So just keep that in mind. You might want to use a external mouse when playing Minecraft and other games that use the keyboard and mouse. But it does run really nicely, and again, this is about on par with what we've seen on other Core M devices. So I think for kind of the low impact games, you'll have a pretty good experience with it. The retro games in particular will run pretty nicely. Everything but like the super demanding emulators should work pretty nicely on a machine like this. So I continue to be impressed with these Core M processors. They're very low power. I think they're 4.5 watts, but they perform exceptionally well. So as configured, this one is about $850. You can configure it with less storage and get in around $600 or $700 with the same overall configuration. So it really looks like the solid state drive is driving a lot of the cost of the device. The only downside to it is the battery life. They rate it for only about 6.5 hours, and through my usage, I would say that's probably about right. You're not going to get that kind of battery life when you're playing games or movie playback or other high-end kind of tasks. So that 6.5 hours is really looking at word processing, spreadsheets, email, web browsing. So, really the more you do with it, the less you're going to see off the grid. So if you are away from an outlet over a long period of time and you want a computer that's going to go all day on the battery, this may not do it for you. There might be other choices you want to look at to get the better battery life. But I do like the form factor of it. I like the weight. I think they've done a nice job with this, and I really like the 1920 by 1080 display in this form factor. It looks really, really nice overall. So that is the Lenovo Yoga 311. The only downside is the battery life, but everything else on it is pretty darn good. This is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.